So today I'm going to be reviewing and sharing my experience with owning my first dirt bike. This one right back here. It's a Honda CRF250F and it's a 2021. So I bought it 3 years ago, brand new. It started off looking very different than it does now, and over the past 3 years I've done quite a bit of modifications, upgraded parts, components, broken things, replaced things. So gonna be sharing all of my experience with that. But first, let's go for a little drive up to a cooler location with possibly a view. Grocery stores here did away with plastic bags. Better for the environment, but definitely inconvenient when you don't have any space and you buy a few items. So managed to squeeze some things in my bag, and then I'll just have to carry the water until we get to the spot. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Wow, this view. Alright, so we've made it to this absurd location. I mean, just look at the backdrop, crazy ocean view, just this little plantel lot way up here in the mountains. You can't really get here by car, maybe on an ATV, but dirt bike is honestly the main way, especially as the road gets worse. So nobody else up here. But let's talk about why did I get a dirt bike in the first place. So way back, one of the first things that I fell in love with and wanted was a race quad when I was little. At just one point, probably over 10 years ago, I saw a race quad and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. Knew at that point I needed to have one at some point. Later down the road, I was like finally maybe getting into the position where I could be able to get myself a race quad. Then I started comparing to a motorcycle. You know, I'd never had like a crazy desire to get a motorcycle till I started learning more about how with a dirt bike, for example, there's a lot of trails and a lot of exploring that I can do that I wouldn't be able to do with a race quad. Even though a race quad can have a lot of fun off-road, there's a lot of narrow trails, different spots that you just wouldn't be able to go on a race quad. First thing I did was learn how to drive a motorcycle. My friend Joa, I think, let me drive his bike was one of the first times and kind of started getting the hang of it. May have dropped it a few times, but started getting the hang of it, got to drive a bike a few times, kind of learn how the shifter and the clutch and the foot brake, start getting used to that. And then I started trying to decide what would be a good first bike, and concluded through the help of others who already had multiple motorcycles was that a Honda 250F would be a great first starter dirt bike. It's not too powerful. They claim it has about 22 horsepower. So not crazy, but it's also not too big. It's not like a full-size, 350, 450 dirt bike, but it'd be a great starter bike. it wouldn't be too much bike for me to start practicing learning. I'm not gonna get thrown off the back. And also I'd have some space to grow into, and it's like a good entry trail bike. So I'd be able to have fun with it, be able to take it. I've taken it on many trails, many enduro rides, and have improved a lot. So as far as a first starter bike, I can't say enough good things about the 250F, honestly. So here she is. Started off as a stock red 250F, and now she's been murdered out. I've tried to black out as many components and things as I can. But real quick, let me run through some of the specs just as a point of reference for other bikes. This is a 250cc, as the name suggests, 4-stroke. When I purchased it, it cost me $5,600. And for here in Costa Rica, that's, you know, a lot of bikes are more expensive here. For reference, like a KTM, brand new KTM 350 or 450 is going to be about $16,000, significantly more than what you would pay for a brand new KTM in the US. So if this bike in the US is noticeably cheaper, what else is there? It is a, let's go around, 18-inch rim on the back, 21-inch rim on the front. We got the sprocket size. It's a 13 tooth in the front and a 50 tooth in the back. They claim that this creates about 22.8 horsepower. Stock from the factory, the seat height is 34.8 inches, and that it weighs 265 pounds and has a 1.6 gallon or 7.3 liter gas tank. So, why did I choose this bike as my first bike? Because I was looking around, and at first, you know, I started seeing KTMs and 350s and 450s and started getting all excited. And then I was like, wait, this is my first bike. Let's just bring it back down. Let's start off with something manageable, something that I can learn on. I can get better at throttle control. It's a bike that's easy to repair. Hondas here are very easy to repair. They're very easy to get replacement parts for. Comparatively, something like a KTM, although those bikes are amazing and I'd love to have one day, getting replacement parts can be a lot more challenging, as I've heard from different people in the area who own KTMs. Why else? Also, this is an air-cooled bike, so there's no radiator with being liquid-cooled. And that's just because it's not a crazy powerful bike, you know. You can give this full gas and you're not going to just get chucked off the back like you might with a 450. So for me, given that I was something to start off with, this has been perfect. I've been able to improve a lot, get more comfortable, take it on trails, and you know, it's not too nice of a bike. You know, to me, it's very nice. I appreciate it and love it a lot, but it's not like the most expensive bike out there. So I'm not afraid to like kind of push it a little more, kind of like if I drop it, if I throw it, because that's just kind of stuff that comes with learning how to ride. Let's talk about some of the upgrades that I've done. First, let's take a look at what this bike looked like stock, straight from the dealership. It had red and white plastics. It had like a silver painted frame. It had silver rims. And over the past 3 years, I've been upgrading parts, upgrading things to make it better, not just also for the looks, but then also performance things to improve the performance or improve like the durability for enduro riding, because that's what I've kind of gotten more into using this bike for. This is a perfect place for enduro riding because there's so many trails and places to go exploring. So let's take a look. I've upgraded, I put on a metal skid plate down here. Used to just be a really flimsy plastic one. This is to protect the motor from all the rocks getting thrown up. Upgraded the brake lever with this little foldable bit for when you're going through tighter areas. Upgraded the foot pegs for something a little more grippy, and you can see these have taken some damage. So this is definitely not, this ain't no pavement princess that never sees dirt. This bike is in the dirt and the mud every time it gets ridden. Another thing was this rear disc brake protector. I upgraded the exhaust system to this FMF, so the slip-on, And then also the header under here is FMF. We got some Pro Taper handlebars. These were two of the first things that I did. When I first got the bike, I upgraded the handlebars. Not right away. I bent the handlebars in a little accident. So I upgraded those and I upgraded the exhaust. Those were like the two first things, and then everything else slowly came after. A big thing I did was I had the frame of the bike. I don't know if it would be considered powder coating. Here they call it a rhino coating. It's kind of like a powder coating, but a little different maybe. Maybe some of you know the exact better, but they call it a rhino coating, and what it does is it protects the frame from rusting. So you can see, not only does it leave it in this really nice kind of matte black finish, but it's this rugged, kind of like rubbery, grippy material. So I don't have any rust issues on the parts that are coated in this. I also had them coat the rear sway bar, which, even though this is aluminum, I just did it because they were already doing the frame and I was really going for that blacked out look. So I did that. Then just recently, in the last month, I upgraded the rims to these black Warp 9, along with some new spokes because I had snapped a few from off-roading, and we got the hubs painted black. What else? Of course, the plastics have been swapped out for black plastics, and also swapped out the seat cover. And I would say those are the main bit of the upgrades. We got the engine covers painted black recently, and a few little things like upgraded this triple clamp. And one big thing which definitely changes the look of the bike is I had a lift kit added. It's about a 1.5 inch to 2 inch lift kit. So this triple clamp is normally clipped down here, but there's this kit that screws on these extenders at the top. So your suspension isn't actually any longer. The bike is just a little bit higher up. And for me being a little taller of a rider, it makes the bike feel a little bit nicer, having a little bit up higher. And that's been a really nice. And then of course, these protectors on the side, I've snapped, I don't even know how many levers, because mainly when you're enduro riding, because sometimes you drop the bike, you're going up this super vertical terrain. I'll post some clips in over top so you can see what I'm talking about. You'll be going over stuff where you just lose control of the bike. It hits a tree, it hits a rock, you drop it and stuff, and that's just, I mean, it's part of the fun, but it's just part of the game. Is when you're pushing yourself like that and doing more gnarly stuff, you're gonna break stuff, and that's just part of the game. So I would say that's the majority of the upgrades that have been done. As far as reliability, this bike has been nearly perfect. The only time it's left me slightly stranded was once the battery died and I had to bump start it, and then I was able to bump start it and make my way to a shop where I could get a replacement battery. I've maybe replaced the battery a few times. One time the bike didn't get used for a while because I was out of the country, so when I came back it wasn't starting, changed the battery, boom, working perfect again. Oil changes, I've always done the oil changes there was like a recommended, but I do it every maybe 1,000 to 2,000 miles. So I'd rather do it sooner than later, especially sometimes if I'm off-roading, I'm driving the bike fairly hard for what it is, and you know, pushing it a lot, revving it pretty high, just going for hours, so I like to take care of it. I try to always clean the air filter every so often and re-oil it. And besides that, there's not really much maintenance. Every so often I take it into the shop so all the bearings can be re-greased, double check the brakes, check the bearings. I've had to replace the bearings a few times. Just regular maintenance stuff, but that comes with any bike. Final thoughts on this bike. I don't really have much to complain about it. My only complaints are, but it's not really a fair complaint, because it's like, now that I'm kind of had 3 years of experience, getting better and better, more comfortable on a bike, sometimes I wish I had a little more power there. Sometimes I wish I had a better suspension, but that's just, I'm not gonna complain about that, because that's what a different bike would be for. The problem is I've had the chance to test drive other friends' bikes that are, like I drove a KTM 350 EXCF, and that bike has noticeably more power, noticeably better suspension, but it's also a much more expensive bike, much more higher maintenance and stuff. So for what this bike is and what it costs, honestly, can't complain. And there's a reason, let's say here in town, this is one of the very popular dirt bikes that you see around, because you can daily drive it. It doesn't require too much maintenance. It's nearly always going to start. And you know, that's really important. You know, a bike that like leaves you stranded all the time, that gets old really quickly. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I have to say about this. And for a while, I honestly didn't even have a motorcycle license. I just learned how to drive a bike down here. And then I got this one and I just started driving it around without a license. But down here, there's not many cops to give you tickets and stuff. Occasionally they come into town, but then people let each other know. So I just kind of used it like that. And then more recently, last year, not so recently, I got my motorcycle driver's license in the US. So I did a course, did all the paperwork and stuff. And honestly, I can say it was a great experience. I mean, it was super easy because I already was fully comfortable driving a motorcycle. But I would say almost, even if you don't plan on getting a motorcycle or one, I could almost recommend doing the course and getting your motorcycle driver's license just to have it. And also something cool about it that I could see, even if you don't drive motorcycles, you'll kind of I feel like I don't know what's the word, you'll have more, I don't know if it's not respect, but like, you'll be more aware of motorcycle riders out on the street. Because a lot of times, I think if you've only ever driven a car, you kind of might look at a person on a motorcycle a certain way. Whereas if you get a little bit of experience on a motorcycle, even if you don't have one to drive day to day, you kind of understand how much more vulnerable they are on the road, and how much like you'll be a lot more careful, a lot more aware, because you see a lot of videos of people like drivers in cars just being absurd. And I know there's motorcycle drivers that are also out there, you know, doing crazy stuff and being, you know, not really being the coolest people on the road and stuff. But I do think like I said, what I already said, I was about to just repeat what I already said. I definitely understand why people love it so much now, because I obviously love it as well. How like therapeutic and just like relaxing it is. When you just like go riding and stuff, you're just like in the moment, relaxed. You're not stressing about anything. You're just like there, and you always just feel great after a ride. Even if it's not some crazy, super long, super crazy ride, you just go for a little cruise or something, and then you just feel different afterwards. You just feel good. And that's why I totally understand why a lot of people who get into riding, like, they love it so much. And I would find it hard to like just stop riding and just never touch a motorcycle again, you know, because like it is a great time. And honestly, for like as far as enduro riding, it's super challenging and crazy endurance. It takes a lot of endurance, like strength. You're dropping the bike, picking it up, you're holding it up on a hill, trying to get it started, give it the right amount of gas to hop on and get moving. And I mean, there's some crazy times, but it's a lot of good times. That's a wrap for this video. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you guys think of the GoPro point of view footage riding the bike. Would you be interested to see more of that? Some more trail riding, exploring and stuff? See you in the next one.